All right, so we're back with the B.I.V. and Pauly G show. I am the notorious B.I.V. and this is my boy Pauly G.
Yo, what's up?
Yeah. And so we're just I got my studio back here. Finally, I've had someone living here in the basement in this room, and I don't know, like I used to film around their schedule, but then for the past little while it became really difficult to judge when they were gonna be gone and when whatever. So but now they're gone and we're back, baby. Yeah. So it's cool. And USA, I'm wearing my USA shirt. I got this. So we were cleaning out this lady's storage unit for her. Her mom had her grandma had all this Avon crap. Like she collected Avon. She just had Avon everything in the store, and she died. And this woman inherited all this stuff, and she just put it in this storage unit. And we were helping her clean it out. And this is one of the things I found in there. this old school USA shirt. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll wear that, right?
There you go.
Anyway, so last we met, Paul, you mentioned something that maybe we can expand on today. So you were talking about maybe it wasn't the very last video we did, but you were you mentioned this time where you were on this bus and everyone heard this Billy Joel song. Was that what it was?
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that? And you said everyone there was they were the cheerleaders and nerds like me, you said. And we were just all singing the same song, and it was one of those weird moments, right?
Yeah.
But so
Uptown Girl.
Yeah, Uptown Girl.
Uptown Girl. We're all singing along. Yeah.
Okay, so but so you identify yourself as a nerd. I mean, at that time, to some degree, right? You said nerds like me, right?
Yeah.
When you were telling that story, and I'm like, okay, so, and I was always I always felt like I was trying to pull you away out of the nerd, away from the other nerds, and don't be a nerd, right? But but you would always kind of you were always hanging out with kids and whatever that were nerdy, right? I mean, we're adults now, and that doesn't really mean much anymore.
It's funny though, because if you think of Trent and Todd, I don't think of them as being the typical nerdy people, but they were definitely in our group of friends, and we definitely role played all the time.
Right.
So.
And that's kind of what I want to get at here is how much of if someone's a nerd, how much of that is that's who they are or whatever. Cause I've never I never identified as that. But all my interests, you and I had the same interests. We liked Dungeons and Dragons and
comic books,
sci-fi and comic books and whatever, right? And that was all kind of nerdy or whatever. And I remember I would I was always trying to be with the cool kids, and I would I would never mention that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
remember when you moved here to Bountiful, you were a student body officer, and you were you have your story about dating that popular girl and everything.
Yeah. But I guess my question is how this, but like oftentimes we say we identify as certain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you identified as a nerd at some point because of the things that because of maybe the things you were interested in or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't I never identified as a nerd or didn't want to.
Right.
But even though I had the same kind of interests or whatever.
Right. Well, labels can be limiting, right? They can be negative, whether the group themselves see it as negative or not. I think just labels themselves can be limiting because then it's like, oh, you fit into this category. You're, so.
Yeah, and I like tried to fit myself in a category. Like I remember I was a new waver, right? Like that's what I identified as.
And I definitely did too. And I think our whole group of friends did, except for maybe Tony. And
so we didn't listen to like certain types of music.
Right.
Like I wouldn't even give it a chance because like, oh, I'm a new waver and that's not new wave. And
so that's what I was thinking. Whatever. So then there's Tony, and he was like totally into heavy metal and lots of other kinds of rock.
Right.
But he was definitely one of our group of friends where we did all the same stuff together.
Yeah.
And then because of him, I think we expanded our musical horizons to be more accepting of rock, right?
Yeah, like eventually we got into
Def Leppard.
Other stuff. Def Leppard, yeah. Yeah, we love Def Leppard. I still love Def Leppard.
Yeah, me too.
They're great.
Yeah.
But so...
The Cult?
Yeah, The Cult. They were one of those bands that like no one... Like, were they alternative? Or were they rock? Or like...
They're definitely pretty hard rock.
Well, they were, but like...
But they didn't fit into like the heavy metal category though.
No, and like alternative radio would always play them, and like
that's true. So maybe
they weren't much on the rock station. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe that was.
And it's funny that people have to categorize stuff.
That goes to the whole topic here. Yeah. Well, and then think about all these famous people who are into Dungeons and Dragons now, right? Like these celebrities that are super open about playing Dungeons and Dragons. So what does that mean? Does that mean that playing Dungeons and Dragons isn't nerdy?
Well,
does that mean that it actually is cool?
Well, that's the thing though. Like that's just a product of like people our age are in control of everything now.
That's true.
And so it's like.
Also, Marvel movies are very mainstream.
Yeah.
Like that's not like some minority population that are into Marvel movies. That's like, I would say lots and lots of people are into Marvel movies. Maybe not as much anymore. Now it's kind of dying off, but
But again, that's a product of like our culture is the one that like emerged. You know what I mean?
Right. That's interesting. I didn't think about it that way.
Right.
So that makes sense. The people who used to play Dungeons and Dragons when they were teenagers are now the adults.
Yeah. And
some of them are celebrities or whatever.
Yeah, but it's funny that like that particular culture emerged, right? Like nerd culture became almost like cool.
Well, like Stranger Things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your main characters in that are all playing Dungeons and Dragons and nerdy.
Right. And now you have these like hot like e-girls on the internet who are all like, oh, I'm a big nerd and I like you know what I mean?
Right.
Like trying to tap in. Like sometimes like I think that a lot of that's really fake. Some of them maybe, but you know what I mean? It's like I think it's just an easy. It's like if you're a hot chick, and you're like, oh, I love like Doctor Who or whatever. Like all those nerdy guys that love Doctor Who are just gonna like, oh, this hot chick,
right,
is just like me, except she's hot. And, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I think, I don't know, that bugs me. But
So my kids growing up, I love to play games with them and role play, and so then like my son and his friends, we would role play a lot growing up, right? So I remember talking to one of their moms, and saying, I can't remember exactly the conversation, but we were talking about that, and I said, yeah, I guess I can be kind of nerdy. And she was like, kind of nerdy? Come on, Paul. Like, let's be realistic here. You're very nerdy. She didn't word it exactly that way, but I was like, oh, I guess instead of me trying to pretend like I'm not, I should just embrace it and just say, yeah, I like nerdy things, and that's okay, you know? And
Interesting.
So now, as a teacher with my students, I say, oh, you know, usually when I'm introducing myself at the beginning of the school year, I'm like, I don't really like sports, you know, but I'm pretty nerdy. I love, you know, I love to read fantasy. I love games, you know.
That's interesting because
so
I don't think nerdy's even a thing anymore with kids.
Well, and you can be a blank nerd, right? Like you can be a technology geek or whatever. Like you can be a nerd about a specific category, which means you just really like that thing, right?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think nerdiness was like sort of unique to our generation, kind of.
Okay.
You know, like it was.
You don't think it exists anymore? Because I definitely see kids in my school. I mean, you have kids who are into sports, and then you have kids that are like they love math, and you could love math and still be an athlete or whatever. But there are kids who are definitely like I was when I was in junior high, where they're kind of awkward and nerdy, and they're in the Dungeons and Dragons club or whatever, you know.
Well, I guess it's just different. I mean, like, it seems like all kids love Pokemon, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like in our day, that would have been kind of a nerdy thing.
Definitely.
But like nowadays, it's like, oh, every kid loves Pokemon, you know.
I would say, as a junior high teacher, the kids who like Pokemon were still kind of like being made fun of as being nerdy.
Okay.
Yeah,
maybe. And you would know because like you're still around that stuff, and you know,
yeah,
I don't see it so much, but and my kids are homeschooled, and like, you know,
it's funny. So I was talking to a teacher friend of mine who's a gym coach, and he was saying how he tried reading Dune and it was just so boring he couldn't get into it. And I'm like, really? Like Dune? Like I loved that book. I just read it not that long ago. And he's like, I've tried reading The Lord of the Rings, or no, tried watching the Lord of the Rings movies, and he's just like, it just puts me to sleep. And I'm like, really? The Lord of the Rings movies? This is a teacher friend of mine who's a PE teacher.
Huh.
And he's like, dude, everybody I know, like they just can't handle that. I'm like, well, you and I must have run with really different circles. And he's like, are you surprised at that? And he's like laughing because obviously he just, you know, he's in a different crowd of people who they don't get into that. And I know tons of people who love The Lord of the Rings, like, you know, and Dune. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I guess like all that stuff. I guess if you're like artistic and like stuff like that, you were into that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like I know you were super artistic.
Right.
I consider myself an artist, but not in any. I don't really have any focus like in any one thing, but like I'm not really good at drawing or playing music or whatever. But I guess when all the artists grew up and they started making the art.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like Stranger Things.
Yeah, like now they make the stuff, and I guess that's why like that culture took over. You know what I mean?
Interesting. I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
Because like those are the people making movies and writing books and whatever.
I guess that's another reason why I think of myself as kind of nerdy, because there's like people who are really into sports, and I'm just not at all. Mm-hmm. Like when they're talking sports, I don't even know what they're talking about, and I don't really. It's not like I think they're bad or stupid or anything. It's just not something I'm into, and so then I'm like, okay, well I guess that's what a normal guy is like, and I guess I'm over here in this other category, you know.
Well, normal, right? I mean,
right.
I have the same thing. Like I work with this at my work. I work with like 12 sales guys. And they're all just bros, like who played football in high school, and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And and it's funny. Like I'm just like sports, like it's not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
And especially after like I don't know after COVID and stuff, I was like, and it like everything became political, and sports players were always like, having their opinions and stuff, and it's just like, why don't you guys just play sports? Like, I don't know why anyone would even watch sports at this point because it's like it's so political. I mean, I guess everything's political now. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but I was just like so over sports after. I mean, I wasn't ever really into sports, but like I would follow the NBA and stuff. Like I like to watch NBA basketball for a while, but after COVID, I was just like, I'm not into it anymore.
Yeah.
But
I think that right there divides people. It's like you're at least. I know a lot of our watchers are probably not in the U.S., so maybe it's different.
Maybe
where you're from, but here I think if you're really into sports or if you're not, kind of divides people into different groups. And it's not like I didn't have any friends who were into sports, but then it's like, okay, well, if you're gonna hang out together and do stuff, and like I don't want to play football, and I don't want to play basketball,
right,
or baseball or whatever, then what are we gonna do? I guess we'll go hang out and do something else over here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway. So yeah, I mean, so this didn't go exactly where I wanted this to go, but that's okay. Like we'll keep it here, and maybe next time we can talk about the other thing. The other thing. So the next thing I think we should talk about is what I was trying to get at is like people identify a certain way, like as a nerd or as a jock or whatever, and it's like how much of that can you change about yourself, and how much can't you, and how much is just like that's who you are. You know what I mean? That's kind of the question I wanted to get at.
I like it.
So think on that for next time, because we're out of time. but this was good. This is a good conversation.
Definitely.
I think
it's pretty organic. I didn't know what we were going to talk about today.
I think I think culture's interesting.
Totally. I agree.
mean, and like my dad like hates Marvel movies.
Really?
Well, I mean, like he watches. He's seen a few, but like mostly he's just like these are goofy or whatever. Because in his day, right, it was like war movies and like cowboy like westerns, right? And it's like. And when his generation was in control, like that's probably what they were all doing, right?
Sure,
they were making movies about that stuff.
Right.
And now our generation controls like the media basically, and we're making stuff that we like. You know what I mean?
Right. I like it. Yeah.
And so eventually our generation will fade away, and the next generation will make like stuff that they're into. And I don't even know what that's going to be. Like, I don't even know what that's going to look like, but...
My daughter loves horror movies, and I do not like horror movies. But she loves horror movies. Yeah. I don't know where she got that from. She didn't get it from me or my wife.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know that that's something that would be passed down genetically, necessarily.
I'm just saying, like, you're saying, like, you have the kind of movies that you like, and your dad has the kind of movies that he likes.
Yeah, well, but I mean that stuff's influenced a lot by like what you grew up with. I think a lot of it. But
I didn't raise my kids watching horror movies because I don't like them.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's funny because sometimes, or we need to go, don't we?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Okay, well we'll end it here. We could talk forever.
Exactly.
And you're probably bored. You should be. But if you're not, I'm glad. I hope we entertained you to a small degree.
Is this where we say like, subscribe?
Sure.
Share.
Like, subscribe, share. We're just going to do whatever we do, and that's what we do. And if you like, that's great. And if you want to subscribe, that's awesome. But that's what we do. Anyway, this has been the B.I.V. and Pauly G show. And we will talk next time about, I don't know, kind of a nature versus nurture kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.